Morning. Now, I said earlier on that many of you have been to Jib Talks from the very, very beginning. And those of you who've been to Jib Talks before, you'll probably understand that whenever we see the name Kenneth on a schedule, we worry about time. Luckily, our next speaker has done this before and is here for the sequel. Back better than ever. Please welcome Kenneth Cardona.
Hello. Crente. Right. My favorite program when I was a young child was this, the Time Tunnel. Okay, and this morning we have been allocated about 15 minutes to travel back in time through the Time Tunnel to a time when a telephone looks like that. Okay, and more specifically to a particular date. And that is the 9th of June, 1969. Okay, and on that particular day, as we're walking through the streets, we have traveled back in time, we meet a young 9-year-old boy, not me. But a boy called, and we'll give him a name, we'll call him Fulanito. Okay? Now, if you look at the headline, it says business as usual. That is what the governor said on that particular day when the frontier had closed. And of course, for a 9-year-old like Fulanito, you know, who doesn't understand much about politics, business is very much as usual because he has other things to worry about. For example, going to the beach and collecting enough empty bottles so he could take to a place like this and earn himself enough pennies to be able to buy one of those. Okay? The other concern that Fulanito had was called school. And I want to show you that gentleman over there. And I use the word gentleman very, very loosely because that man can only be described as a sadist. He was Brother Kelly from the Linewall School, okay? And of course, Fulanito went to the Linewall School. He had books like this and like that one. And then there was this one. Now this one, Brother Kelly and the New Worlds to Conquer would remain forever etched in Fulanito's mind, okay? Because for homework every week, Fulanito had to learn a particular comprehension passage. Not only did he have to learn it, he had to know the answers to all the questions, spell all the words, and know the meanings of it. And on one particular day, Kelly approached Fulanito and he went, "Not me. How do you spell and?" And of course, Fulanito stood up and went, "A-N-D." And the next question, the whole world collapsed around Fulanito when Kelly asked him, "What is the meaning of and?" I mean, who looks up the meaning of and? So, fearing the worst, Fulanito went, "And is and." And so enraged Kelly, because of the twitter of giggles around the classroom, that Fulanito was given a very thorough beating. Something that he was already accustomed to. But on this particular occasion, Fulanito remained traumatized forever because his precious possession, his Thunderbird's pencil, had been shattered in the process. Okay, so, carrying on. What other things did Fulanito have to worry about or think about in those days? There was his collection of soldaditos. Or things such importance as the sabuteo, which entertained him for a long, long time and for many, many hours painting figures. In fact, a little aside, sabuteo was not just a toy. It actually became a social phenomenon because many, many families earned an extra income by painting the figures. Okay? And apart from that toy, there was also this one, the Scalectric, which also took on a meaning in Gibraltar. Vamos ser Scalectric, which is basically originally to go round and round the rock on a Sunday afternoon. He was very interested in his comics, the Beano, the Look and Learn, from which he learned a lot, and where he started to learn his first words in German. And of course, there was television. Television. And for those of you pre-1980, black and white. 2 channels, Spanish and GBC. Okay? And this was quite a story, actually. I think I might have time to tell you better. We didn't have satellite TV or internet ni nada de eso. This thing had to be connected to an aerial antenna, which had to be placed at the top of the block. And Fulanito was sent there with his pole and his antenna. Un poquito para la derecha, niño. Un poquito para la izquierda. ¡Aguanta ahí! And then, of course, he would go back downstairs and somebody would say, ¿Tiene nieve? O ¿tiene doble? Up he went again. ¡Visa para la izquierda! Until eventually he might be able to get to see some of his favorite programs. And I don't want to get stuck in the time tunnel, so I have to flick through this very, very quickly. Some of you may remember some of these characters. In fact, this gentleman over here was very popular. This was Mind Your Language, and he was actually a Gibraltarian by the name of Leviatias. That kind of humor nowadays, no. The woke brigade would have a fit. The 2 Ronnies, which was one of his favorite programs as well. And then, of course, we were stuck. Fulanito was stuck in Gibraltar. He couldn't cross the frontier to go and buy churros ni nada de eso. There were only 2 ways out of Gibraltar. One was by catching a plane, and we didn't have 5 flights a day. I think you were lucky if you had 1. Okay? I can't remember how long it took, but it seemed to take for ages. And for, people who are accustomed to EasyJet and what have you, the fact was that flights at the time for the average family were far too expensive. Okay? And the only other alternative really was this. The Monscalpe, which really, I think, was the savior of Gibraltar at the time. Most of our fruit and vegetables came from Morocco. Okay? Our labor force, more or less, came from Morocco. And it was also the only way to get out of Gibraltar and to do something, which also became another expression in Gibraltar at the time. Y de Palomeo, which basically meant going on holiday to Spain. But this required you to go on the Monscalpe from here to Tangier, and then from Tangier to Algeciras in the Ibn Battuta. Okay? And it could take you the entire day just to go to Algeciras. This day was a particular important day in Fulanito's life at the time. It is the 15th of February, 1971. For those of you who might not remember, or those of you who, this is like ancient history, this was the day of what we call, wait, this is a long word, decimalization. This was the day when everything in mathematics became so much simpler. It's tens. Not 12 pennies in a shilling, 20 shillings in a pound. Yo no sé cuántos inches in a foot, how many yards in a mile. Imagine mental arithmetic. How many inches in a mile and a half? Oh, who? 12 inches to the foot, 3 feet in a yard, 1,760 yards. No vaya la paliza que le dieron al pobre fulanito. But it was also, as you can see, I hope you can see it from the image, there was also something very important in Fulanito's life at the day. And that was the countdown on the 11 plus. The beginning of a social and educational revolution in Gibraltar, the start of comprehensive education. Before that, at the age of 11, children had to sit an exam where they were basically divided into academics, non-academics. If you passed your 11 plus, you were destined for a white-collar job. Con una corbatita y eso. But if you didn't pass it, ¡Ardoquia, niño! And so, 2 years later, Fulanito became the class of 72, the guinea pigs of comprehensive education. I mean, nobody knew what it was all about. They just stuck everybody in the boys' comprehensive or the girls' comprehensive, okay? And we started off in this journey, which we still have today, which is called comprehensive education, okay? And I think that has been one of the success stories of Gibraltar. Now, before we need to finish, because we are going to be running out of time and I don't want to get stuck in a time warp. There's been a lot of talk over the last few years about the Gibraltarian identity, language, culture, what have you. But what really makes you a Gibraltarian? ¿Qué te hace llanito? And I am going to propose something to you. And that is that if you, your parents, or your grandparents were brought up on that, and to finish off, why? Because ideal milk tastes so much better, ideal milk. Did I hear a murmur? Bueno, let's have it. Sing it loud, sing it proud. Show you are a llanito. Ideal milk tastes so much better, ideal milk. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you very much, Kenneth Cardona. I think that's the first time we've had a sing-along in Jib Talks. Wow, that was good fun.